Welcome to Midway Minute, everybody. I'm Scott Koral. She is Maggie Hendricks. And the big news of, I don't know if it's really the day, but definitely for the week so far for Chicago, Candace Parker comes home to the Chicago Sky. Maggie, this is momentous.
It's huge. It's huge. When the whispers first started, I tweeted out that if this happens, this is going to be the biggest Chicago free agent signing since John Lester. And I was expecting to get pushback from people. And I didn't, because it's true, because it's just 100% true. Because when John Lester came into the Cubs, that was the Cubs signaling, first of all, that, yeah, we want to win this thing and we're going to do what we need to. But number two, it also was bringing in a presence who had won before, who know how to win a World Series. And in both cases, that's what Candace Parker is for the Sky team.
You know, she's played 13 years for the LA Sparks, or at least the last 13 years, 2-time MVP, 5-time All-Star. She's the reigning defensive player of the year. She's going to be 35 this season, though. Is she still the same player that she has been for all those years?
I'm not going to say she's the same player, because I mean, kind of like how Jordan's game evolved to go with his age. And we've seen lots of athletes, lots of basketball players do that, figure out how to use their how to use different parts of their game to make sure that if they're not as fast, if they've lost the step, they'll figure out something else to go with it. I think that's fair to say about Candace. Like you said, she's the defensive player of the year that she won last season. And I mean, she just has such a presence in the paint, and that is what the Sky have needed so sorely. They have Azure Stevens, but really most WNBA teams who do really well have two players in the paint who can really just lock it down, and now that's what the Sky have.
Well, you mentioned Stevens and obviously Parker. That front court, you have DeShields, who, I mean, a bigger body. Parker, Stevens, Stephanie Dolson is still there. Ruthie Hebart is still there. Like, you have a front-loaded team, but you don't have a whole lot behind Allie Quigley and Courtney Vandersloot at guard. What are the Sky going to do there?
It's really important for the Sky to find a reliable backup point guard, because Courtney Vandersloot has been playing so many minutes. And quite frankly, Courtney likes that. Courtney wants, she wants to be out there as much as she possibly can, but she's also in her 30s. And so they need to realize that at some point she's not going to be able to be the Iron Woman that she's been. And same thing with Allie Quigley. They need to have a reliable 3-point shooter beyond Allie. A lot of other players will get hot. Like, you'll see Diamond get hot. You'll see Kalia Copper get hot. But none of them have the reliability and quick release that Allie Quigley has. Allie barely will have the ball in her hand from usually her wife, Courtney Vandersloot, before it's already on the way to the basket. And that's a really tough thing to defend. And so someone else who's younger and could learn from Allie, and the same thing with a point guard who knows what they're doing, but could learn from Courtney and theoretically take her spot when Courtney retires, would be the ideal thing. Because I mean, I truly believe what Courtney Vandersloot should be doing in the offseason is coaching the Bulls guards. Like Kobe White, like when Kobe White has come to Sky games, and I've asked him about it, and he said one of the things he watches is every little thing that Courtney Vandersloot does, every single thing. And so she currently plays for a Russian team that pays her a lot of money, and I don't blame her for doing that.
I don't either.
But I would love to see Courtney become a coach in the offseason. I think the Bulls would do very well to have her. I think it would help. But I truly think whether she's coaching men or women, she would be an outstanding coach. And that's what would make her a good mentor for whoever would come next.
All right, so let's go to Courtney's wife, Allie Quigley. People forget that last summer, Allie defeated Chris Paul in the little NBA horse tournament, so to speak. and then went on to play Zach LaVine and fell just a bit short there. But Quigley is maybe the greatest three-point shooter in WNBA history. She is excellent. But without that help and without that reliability behind her, is she going to be forced to play that 35, 36 minutes a game that she's been doing?
I think what will happen is that we'll see Gabby Williams come in a lot of times. And there's this long time joke with Sky fans. Is she point Gabby or is she power Gabby? Because Gabby Williams is very versatile. So sometimes she came in as a point guard and sometimes she came in as a power forward, which is obviously a huge difference, but she's so versatile that she is able to handle all of those, be a shooting guard, basically if you do anything but put her at center, Gabby's going to figure it out. So I think that Gabby will be the one to kind of give Allie that break. But I don't think that the Sky will be done signing because they can't be. They need more bodies on the roster. So I'm really interested to see how. Obviously, all the big name signings are what we're talking about this ride. Ariel Powers going here, Jasmine Clark, Candace Parker.
Sure.
But I think next week when we start to see the bench players sign and the rosters really fill out, then we'll get an idea, first of all, where the Sky will be going with the draft. But beyond that, also where all the other teams are going to be going with the draft and who else is on the team.
Well, one person that's not going to be on the team is another Parker, Cheyenne. She's I believe headed to Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken. So she shot, 46% from 3-point line last year.
Yeah, that's not
going to
make
a big difference.
Yeah. I think having Candace Parker here, having Steph Dolson, and having Azure, they all can shoot from the three when they need to. So losing Cheyenne sucks, quite frankly, because Cheyenne brings not only that she can shoot and she can be a big body in the paint, but she also has this, you don't mess with Cheyenne. She's not she'll take on all comers. She stared down Liz Cambage, all 6'9", I think, of Liz Cambage. She's not afraid of anybody. And that kind of attitude is just what you want to have on a team. It's not that she's like mean or is rude, but if you cross her, she will not take it. And that's just a great presence to have on a team. So, and also, to be fair, she's also a great interview. And so that's always key to me. That's my job. Right. So I think that Cheyenne will do very well in Atlanta. But I will be sad to not see her in a Sky uniform.
Well, hopefully that doesn't come back to haunt us. Like another, like with Candace Parker coming back home, she's from Naperville. She's coming back home to play for the Sky. And it got me to thinking that this has happened to the Sky before. When Elena Deladon decided, I want to go back home, and ended up forcing her way out and going back to the DMV area to play for the Mystics. Is that going to be a lot different with Parker than what happened with Deladon? Because Elena played a lot, I shouldn't say a lot better, but she did play better after she did go back home. Is the same going to happen here?
I don't know if we're necessarily going to see a better Parker than we've seen, because she's already done some amazing things. And it's not exactly the same situation because things weren't exactly happy in Chicago for Elena. And she knew where she was going to be happier. Candace Parker recently bought a house in LA. She's doing work for NBA TV and TNT. She still loves LA very much. And I don't think any of this is because of hatred of the Sparks, as much as she realizes she's in her mid-30s. And this is one of the last chances she has to not only play in front of so many of her family and friends who still live here, but also bring a championship to the city that she has that she still loves. I mean, we saw it at the All-Star game last year. She was part of a lot of All-Star things, and she talked about how important Chicago's basketball culture was to her and to helping her grow. So I think it's more positive than vengeful, if that sounds right.
I believe Candace Parker called Chicago the Mecca of basketball, which I was like, I thought that was New York, but not that I would say that Chicago's far behind, but I don't necessarily disagree.
Yes.
I think even with the Sky, just with the 9 people that they have on the roster right now, they still would have a tough go against the Aces, let's say the Mystics, the Storm. I mean, they're the reigning champions of the WNBA. Where do you think the Sky now falls, even before free agency begins?
Well, I mean, as of right now, the team is just they're middling of playoff teams, because 8 of the 12 teams in the WNBA make the playoffs. So right now, I'd put them around a 4 or 5. But when you put Candace Parker on there and you have a real defensive presence in the paint, and that is in addition to Azure and Stephanie Dolson, that just makes all of the difference in the world. That makes them a completely different team. And so I could see them competing with, I mean, there's a lot of other teams that are making some big moves too. I could see them competing with the Storm, because Candace knows exactly what she's doing against Brianna Stewart. And also Brianna Stewart plays in Russia with Ellie Quigley and Courtney Vandersloot. So they know a little bit about her too. I think that the biggest team outside the Sky that I'm going to be watching, because they're making so many smart moves, is the Minnesota Lynx. And it doesn't surprise me that they're making smart moves. Cheryl Reeve is as good of a coach and GM as it gets. So, and actually that's where James Wade, the coach of the Sky, that's who he coached under before he became coach. So it's not surprising to see them do the same kind of things. But the Lynx are picked up Ariel Powers and Kayla McBride. And they, I think what they're trying to do is recognize that they have a window, because they have a young star in Crystal Dangerfield. And then they have Sylvia Foles, who's 35. And so when you throw in, they have stars at either end of the age spectrum. So I think they're kind of all in to win it right now, because we don't know what the future is going to bring.
Sylvia Foles, that's a familiar name to Sky fans.
Yes, she's one of the many Sky #1 picks who's playing really well elsewhere.
Right. If you were James Wade, what other moves would you try to make when free agency begins on Monday?
I think the biggest thing is just finding a backup point guard. I don't have an exact name, because I'm not I don't have the free agency list memorized. But more than anything, they need to find some relief for Courtney Vandersloot. And it was supposed to be Sydney Colson last summer, and then Sydney Colson got coronavirus. And even when she came back to play, she was never really fully herself like she had been in Las Vegas. So I think that's the biggest move, is figuring out someone to give Courtney Vandersloot some relief so she can continue to be the star they need her to be.
All right. Any last words on Candace coming to Chicago? By the way, what's in the water in Naperville? Maybe that should be the final question, because Candace Parker, Naperville Central, Cameron Brate, the tight end for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, from Naperville Central. I believe you have 5 members of the Red Stars from Naperville.
Yeah.
What's in the water there?
Committed parents who are very committed to youth sports. That's what's in the water there. So, I mean, first of all, it's huge. Don't ever forget that. Naperville is a huge town. I want to say they have 60 or 70,000 people. So you're going to just have more stars. But they have a very strong youth sports apparatus, which helps kids get noticed and especially in something like soccer. It's huge. So I think that's just what's in the water in Naperville, is opportunity.
Not a bad thing to have if you have that in the water.
Not at all.
So, Maggie, I thank you for coming on with us. If you are watching us on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button so you can see all of our content whenever it comes up. And also go to the website, midwayminute.win. You know, those alliterations, it's just too much. So head to the website, midwayminute.win, and sign up for the newsletter. And you can see that too. Maggie, again, we thank you, and we will see you all next time right here on Midway Minute.